Remember, guys, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness, dark principalities, and evil powers in high places. I'm not just fighting a man on April 12th. I'm fighting a man possessed by a legion of demons. When I simply said the name Jesus, he was provoked to maliciousness. And he started barking like a dog and chanting F you, F you, F you.
And Jesus said, hey, remember, Bryce, if the world hates you, Bryce Mitchell, they hated Bryce Mitchell. Fuck Bryce, and this servant greater than his master. Fuck Bryce Mitchell. Fuck Bryce Mitchell. Fuck Bryce Mitchell. Hey, brother, fuck Bryce Mitchell.
Guys, what's going on with UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell? Did Dana White hire hitman Silva to take him out for his bosses? As of recent, Bryce has been on multiple different podcasts, including the Patrick Bet-David one, the Jackson one, and also the Jake Shields one. On these interviews, he was dropping controversial bombs, and unfortunately, I think he pissed off a few people. Bryce Mitchell covered multiple different topics, including APAC, war, Jeffrey Epstein, freedom of speech, the jab, Christianity being under attack, nutrition, which is ironic because he's drinking Aquafina in the interview with Jake Shields. Brother, stay away from that shit. Your body is made of 80% water. You need to stick to quality spring water. Aquafina is straight garbage. Now, during these interviews, which one of them was on his own podcast, he started talking about, let's talk about the mustache man, right? And, he said a few different things, but what happened is people clipped it up to make it out that he said something that he didn't say. And what happened is, after that, he went on the Jackson podcast, which a guy called Bear, who's an absolute snowflake, and for me, very fake. He basically put him in a corner and basically wanted to shame him without letting him explain his side of the story, or even talk about how the clip was manipulated. Now, I'm not saying the mustache man is innocent or even a good guy. But what I'm saying is that history is always written by the victorious. And Dana White had a response to all these comments that Bryce was saying. In fact, he was fucking furious, fuming. He actually labeled Bryce not only stupid, but the dumbest human being that he's ever come across.
I think he's probably one of the dumbest, literally one of the dumbest human beings. For all of you that hate Bryce Mitchell, you get to see him hopefully get his ass whooped on global television. I mean, what do you want me to say about it?
Now, Dana White says that the company is all about freedom of speech and anyone can say anything. But this little situation here was a little different, right? I've never seen Dana so angry. Like, it was almost like a personal attack. Like, almost like we were going to take money out of his pocket. Now, let me explain to you why Dana was so angry. And during the interview of what you just saw, Dana was naming war facts. I've never seen Dana go so deep into things. And honestly, I know World War II was fucked up, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on the numbers and all the facts that went along with it. Like I said before, the victorious are always going to write history, right? Now we're diving deeper into why Dana White was so pissed and literally could have cost him maybe even his job, because the bosses above Dana were not fucking happy. Not only because was he critical of a certain set of people, not only because he spoke about the mustache man, but he was also very pro-Palestine. Who owns the UFC, guys? Well, let's see. TKO Group Holdings. Majority owned by Endeavor Holding Group, which is actually the parent company to the UFC and the WWE. The CEO is called Ari Emanuel, known billionaire. The executive chairman is Patrick Whitesell, and the president is Mark Shapiro. And so you know, TKO is worth 26 billion. And all the three guys that I mentioned, what do they have in common apart from being rich and powerful? That's right. Now, did the bosses and Dana White sit down and think, who the fuck are we gonna send to take out this guy who keeps dropping gems on gems on gems? I know Dana denied it, but Dana White, come on bro, you've been caught lying a couple times and you don't always stick to your word. So, personally, I do think this is a hit on Bryce Mitchell. And honestly, I think even if Bryce wins and gets a W, I think eventually when his contract's over, they're not going to re-sign him just because of his controversial truths. And even though Dana White denied getting the hitman out for Silva, you guys have seen on the previous interview, he is actually saying that he wants to see him getting beaten up in his next fight. Now, who is June Silva? June Silva is an absolute animal, coming off a 4-fight win streak here in the UFC, all first-round knockouts, representing the fighting nerds in Brazil. Another thing I want to mention about this June Silva guy is he's got a few satanic weird things about him. And you guys are probably wondering, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, he claims to be a man of God, a Christian, but he calls himself the Lord, which is very strange. And apart from that, not only does he have the Lord tattoo, but he has another tattoo on his shoulder, kind of on his chest shoulder right there, which is a Nordic pagan lock tattoo. And honestly, the meaning of that tattoo is a little bit more satanic than you think. Even though his nickname and his tattoos are sus, there's also one more thing about June Silva. Every time Bryce Mitchell mentions Jesus or Christianity, he always barks like a dog. And Bryce Mitchell's even mentioned this here on this interview.
And here's how I know that this man is possessed. Well, first off, he barks like a dog, like a heathen. Okay, but second off, when I mentioned the name Jesus, he interrupted and said, "Fuck Bryce Mitchell."
Yep.
No man who serves Jesus interrupts another man talking about Jesus to say "fuck you." And I'm just telling you, this man is possessed, and the very name of Jesus prompts him to maliciousness.
Is this spiritual warfare? To me, it almost feels like it's good vs evil. What do you guys think? Do you guys get that sort of feeling? And do you think Dana did get that call from above from his bosses to wipe Bryce Mitchell out? It's clear that the UFC does not fuck with Bryce because of his controversial takes and him pushing Christianity. Even here in the clip, you see a post-fight clip with him and Dan Ige, and Bryce Mitchell asked Michael Bisping to do a prayer all together, and Michael Bisping refuses and the camera cuts them off.
Also, too, these fires in Hawaii, I don't believe that they were natural. I believe they were man-made. They're trying to take the land from the natives, and I want Dan Ige, a native Hawaiian, to lead this world in prayer against the power of Satan.
Well, congratulations on a great fight. Dan Ige, congratulations as well. Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty, tremendous performance, my brother.
Please let Dan pray.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, Thug Nasty, Bryce.
Now you guys might be saying, well, why bring religion into fighting? Well, honestly, they let the Muslim fighters do it. How many times have you seen Khabib or Islam do a prayer in the ring, octagon, sorry, or even post-fight, before fights, etc.? Why is it different? Why is Bryce not allowed to push Christianity and his faith? And think about it, Bryce Mitchell is actually a fan favorite. Shit, yeah, there's loads of people that don't like him, but there's a lot of people that do like him and fuck with him. It's clear to see by his views, and a lot of people actually agree with a lot of his takes. So why is a popular fighter like Bryce Mitchell being treated like the black sheep when there's other fighters like Sugar O'Malley who get the red carpet? Now you guys might be thinking, why did I mention Sugar? I like Sugar O'Malley, but I just wanted to show the comparison. Sugar O'Malley's popular, but he doesn't have controversial takes, but they push him hard, right? Bryce Mitchell's also popular, but he does have controversial takes that go against a lot of what the owners believe in, right? But he doesn't get pushed. In fact, he gets pushed to the back, and now they're trying to wipe him out. Now, what happens when one of God's favorites, Bryce Mitchell, takes out the demon, June Silva? Well, UFC have two decisions. They either push Bryce, fan favorite, and accept him for who he is and allow him to say what he has to say, or they're gonna cut him. I do think that if he carries on saying the things that he says, he's gonna be cut, unfortunately. Obviously not a straight away, as he'll have to fight out his contract, but I think when his contract's finished, you know, the bosses like Ari, Mark, and them boys, they're gonna be like, bro, you gotta get this guy out. Off to Bellator he goes. Well, not even Bellator, doesn't exist no more. Bare knuckle fighting or some shit. Now, if you think this is more to do with Bryce and less to do with them boys, then let's have a look at the Belal Muhammad situation. Obviously, the war in the Middle East has been going on for a long time, but there was a period where things were quiet. And when things started to build up just after 2020 again, I remember Belal Muhammad used to always come out repping the Palestinian flag. And shortly after that, in 2022, there was a ban on flags.
Belal Muhammad's corner put the Palestine flag behind him on the fence, and what it looked like from press row was they were told to put it down. So I was just wondering, because there were other flags shown throughout the night, if that was kind of random or if that's policy thing because of the war.
Who said take it down?
I don't know who it was, but it looked like it was someone from the UFC. There was like two people just like telling them to don't put it on the fans.
Look like there are people from UFC? Were they wearing fucking UFC hats or
No, I mean
name tags?
Otherwise, they wouldn't have been right at the octagon.
I have no idea.
But there's no like new flag policy thing because of anything.
I have no idea.
And honestly, there's no explanation. For me, I do think it's because of the Palestinian flag. But what other explanation can you give? Why would people be triggered by different other flags from different nationalities? Why would you not want fighters to rep where they're from? Just doesn't make no sense. And then after, a year later, Dana White took off the ban and said that flags are allowed again. Probably because he was getting a lot of shit from the fans. Now you guys can turn around and say, bro, you're a conspiracy theorist. It ain't got nothing to do with Palestine. He just didn't want the flags in there, you know? He didn't want people repping their flags. He just wanted it UFC based. Well. About the online situation with Bilal that happened only this year. Everyone on the UFC roster has a profile online and everyone has the flag of the country they're from. Everyone's flag was there, but guess whose flag wasn't there? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Bilal Muhammad's.
So people keep asking me, where's your flag? I started getting multiple messages from it and I was just assuming it was a mistake, but it's still not addressed. So I'll address it and hope that Dana addresses it as well, fixes it, because Dana said he's all about free speech. He's all about people supporting who they want to support and not muting or silencing anybody. So I'm hoping that the UFC fixes this issue and puts my flag next to my name. So the people that I represent, the people that I fight for, and the people that I train for will see their flag next to their champion's name.
Final thoughts. Bryce, I know you're a heavy underdog, but I'm going to bet the bag on you. And I do believe you're going to get the win with the power of God as well. And guys, all Bryce wants is to live the truth, be America first, and not be involved in any wars. Is that too much to ask for? Bryce, I hope you go get a twister this weekend and fucking submit the fuck out this Jordan Silva cunt. Natureholics, enjoy the fights. Until next time, let's go.